and be competitive in that game, and that's a great play by him. There's a lot in there too. You know, Kamalei's play, chasing them down. The guy's a competitor. Even in bad circumstances, guys are still competing. There's pride, on this team, and like I said, it's a statistical game in one category that is very hard to overcome, and we can't get in that situation because it just doesn't go in our way.
You expect Jeremy to play Saturday, and was it the little things that you really missed him with? He may have had trouble running the ball just like everybody else against Utah State defense. Was it the little things that he does that you really missed?
To answer your first question, yes, we expect him back this week. I don't know. We know he's a good player. He's done a lot for us. He didn't play in the game. And you know what? We knew that, and we had a plan to go in there and play without him, and our plan was to win without him. We felt like we could do that. So, I'm not going to say, what woulda, coulda, shoulda. We'll get him back this week. It's going to be great to have him back. He's obviously a big factor for what we do offensively, and I really feel like he was in that rhythm, of what we wanted from the run game. So hopefully we can get that back this week.
What are you seeing from Montana? I'm sorry, Wyoming.
Yeah, better. I think you're seeing the physicalness that Coach Bowles is known for, and the teams that he's played with. Offensively, I think their back's leading the conference in rushing. So they're running the ball the way they want to run it, physical, downhill, and being productive. And then, I've spent more time watching the defense, but those guys are playing tough, and they did against Nevada. They created penetration, they tackled well, especially the front seven, and they were flying around. And they're doing a little bit more in coverage than maybe what they did the year before. I think that's just another year in the system. I guess the thing that stands out to me is the physicality of how they're playing. And, it felt like that was the case last year, but, this year it's I'm surprised, at their record. I think they're a better football team than what their record shows. And I think you can throw that out the window right now. They beat Nevada. The way the conference is at this point, I think all that's out the window. And we got to prepare for that.
Offensive linemen the last couple of weeks have been saying they're happy with the way they're performing, and maybe a little surprised that it's not going better. I think the yards per carry, down to about the worst in 10 years here. What do you see in there that is holding you guys back in terms of that run game up front?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it all on the offensive line. Some of it is it's not just the O-line. We need to. I think we saw some of it in the Colorado State game, some explosive runs. I think we were running the ball the way we wanted to, more in that last game than the Utah State game, and probably because we didn't have a chance to run it as much. We might have gotten to a groove had the score not been what it was. So it's just a combination of that. I think the O-line's doing a good job. Have we given up penetration? Yes. Can we be better up front? Absolutely. But it's a combination too of running backs and O-line working together, and there's some scheme things in there as well. We've gotten an extra guy in there that's made the tackle that last year maybe didn't make the tackle. We got to be able to break them as well. So it's not just one thing. It's not just the O-line. And I know those guys, they take a lot of pride in it, and they put the pressure on themselves. And I like that about that group. But it is a combination of our backs and tight ends included, all doing a better job, of eliminating penetration. Because it's not ever just one guy or one single issue. It's, maybe, a couple things here and there on a few plays, and you get some negative plays in there. And the sacks, obviously, too. We got to eliminate that. That hurts.
You mentioned Wyoming's running attack. The running back Hill has 985 yards through 7 games, so that's well over 100 a game.
Yeah.
What does he do? What is his strengths, and what does he look like?
Well, I think he's part of it, but O-line, tight ends, fullbacks, and all that, they're denting the defense. And he's a downhill, arm tackle breaker in those type of situations. I mean, if you're going to swing an arm out there, he's going to break it. Probably more just that than anything, and being committed to it as well. in their run game. I think that's why you see some of the numbers. That's what they want to do. They're going to keep doing it. Probably similar to Colorado State. They want to establish that and make that a part of what they do. And then he's just better. He's better than he was last year. Those guys up front are better. They understand what they're doing. I think that identity of being physical in the run game is showing up.
Last year, you guys were top 10 on defense in sacks and tackles for loss, and you brought pretty much the whole front seven back. I think people thought those numbers would get even better. I know that at least the numbers-wise, they're not this year. To me, it seems like maybe you're not bringing as much pressure as you guys have at times. Is that wrong? What do you think's been defensively? Some of the quarterbacks, especially on the third downs, maybe are getting you guys because they're having a lot of time back there.
Yeah, I don't know. Statistically, you guys know a lot more about stats than I do. But yeah, I think there's opportunities that we need to get to that quarterback a little bit better. As far as pressure goes, that's all determined a little bit by what we're seeing offensively. What we think we can do. Now, on the flip side, I think we have more turnovers, don't we, on defense picks and all that than we did before. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there with bringing pressure versus playing coverage. And in the last previous games before this one, I think our coverage has paid off, what we're doing. So there's a balance in there. Some years you need to bring pressure. Some years you play a little more coverage. And then it also depends, too, on what we feel like teams are trying to attack us with. If it's a quick game, it's hard to get there, so you play coverage. Now, if they're going to drop back and sling it, then you want to go ahead and try to get after them. I don't know how many teams have done that. They stood back there and let guys scramble around. I think if you look at the completions, it's been quick game protection, and then a guy's pop free and the quarterbacks hit it, in some of the third down conversions.
Two questions. One is AJ, outside of Shane and Chaz and Thomas, they've obviously had a bulk of your receptions this year. It hasn't been a ton of guys get involved in the passing game, but AJ kind of lost, made a couple of big catches on third and fourth down, I want to say, in that game.
Yep.
And then also just getting back to the final 2 minutes of that first half, at that point, it just, I don't know if it could, I don't know if it was time to evaluate or if it would have been approached a little differently or anything like that. It just obviously they got a lot of momentum going into the locker room there.
Yeah, well, as far as AJ, all those wideouts, we'd like to get more guys involved, and we need to. Achillian Butler, AJ Richardson, now we got him. He made some plays, so we're utilizing those guys. Sean Monster, I think in their progression, they're improving. That's why you see AJ out there, Achillian being used more. Sean was out there on a few plays. So those guys are starting to show up more. You're going to see more of them because they're just getting better, bottom line. And as far as the last 2 minutes, yeah, it's I'm not exactly sure, the different approach. I mean, hang on to the ball, really is what it comes down to. And, that was the 2 minutes in that game, that's tough. That's tough. And I think the key ingredient is, hang on to the ball, try to get field position in the drive and the kick, however we do it. The things that we talk about every single week, it just didn't happen.
Jonathan Moxie this year seems like he's grown quite a bit, stepped up quite a bit this year. What kind of growth have you seen in him this year?
Yeah, a lot. I think just he's a more mature football player, with his approach. I think every day, just his preparation, his attitude, his practice habits. He's a year older. I mean, these guys, they grow up, and I think that's something that you're seeing with him. In the BYU game, he had a penalty. Lots changed since then. Because he's better than that. He doesn't. He can go out there and play with anybody that he's out there against, and he's shown that. And he doesn't just do it on defense; he does it on special teams. He's been showing up. So I've been really happy with just his growth. Since he's been here, just as a person, player, and it's showing up. And being part of that secondary, with the other guys in there as well, you got some good players, and he's right there with them, and he's put himself in the same position as other guys to be as competitive.
Asked you after the game, ask you after the game about this, but with being basically 2 games back behind Utah State now, and your goal right up there, it seems like it's at this point at least kind of tough for that to happen. You'll need some help. How do you kind of get these guys fired up or move forward, past that to look at what's still ahead? Even the group of 5 seems tough at this point. I mean, it seems like a lot's against you guys at this point. How do you kind of regroup and try to finish this thing strong and see what happens?
Yeah, well, that's not really our mission. Everything you just asked me right there. Our mission is week to week, game to game. These guys, we know our mission, and that is our goal, and you are correct on that. Our mission was laid out in front of us with that schedule of every single team we play to try to go out there and win every single game. So to me, the motivation's still there. That hasn't changed. As far as what we can accomplish, we're not going to know till the end of the year anyway. We sat here last year after the Air Force game and had the same questions, same conversation. Everybody, upset about where we were, and we ended up being conference champions, and we ended up winning the Fiesta Bowl. So, who knows? The ball doesn't just bounce funny for the Broncos either. So, we'll just see how this season ends up. We're going to try to go win every single game we play. We're going to do it one game at a time, and that's all we can do. And whatever happens after that, hey, there's good coaches, there's good players, and we have both in this program as well. So we'll see what happens.
You look at Wyoming's passing attack and the conference leader in passing yards, and Gentry also. I haven't seen a lot of Wyoming, but can they stretch the field? And on that note, what have you guys been able to do that has led to so much success? I think over the last, I want to say 5 games, you've allowed 2 or 3 pass completions of over 20, or passes that have traveled over 20 yards.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't sat down and studied their entire pass game and the vertical attack and all that. Tanner Gentry is obviously very talented. What have we done? We've covered well. We may not have gotten there, but we have got pressure to where if you are going to take a 7-step drop and decide to go launch it, be careful. Our guys will get to you at some point. And so I think it's just a combination of that we do have good pass rushers, that we do have good coverage. And, we've competed on the balls down the field. It showed up again in the last game too. We're still competitive down the field. Now, they may make a play, but we're competing a lot better, for the ball each and every time. So I think it's just a combination of that. We'll have to do the same thing in this game. You run the ball like that, you're going to be able to take shots. You got to get safeties down. You got to get help in the run game. You can't just expect linebackers and D linemen to handle it all by themselves. And at some point, you're going to get a one-on-one matchup. You got to go win the one-on-one matchup.
You talked about the way Brett kind of bounced back in the second half. What did you see in the first half in terms of, was he just a little bit, a foot here or there with some of those throws, or what did you kind of see kind of holding him back there in the first half?
Yeah, I don't think it was, all him, but a little, a little high here, a little low there, but also plays that have been caught, and made before. So, sometimes you throw a ball up and a guy goes up and gets it, and sometimes, he doesn't. I mean, it kind of comes down to that. So it wasn't just one guy. I think we were all off a little bit of rhythm, when it came to, some of the plays that we'd made. That had to do with, kind of some of the factors that had gone on, and that's everybody just regrouping and, continue to compete. And it takes a minute sometimes, when you have negative things happen to you. But I thought, did we catch every ball? No, we dropped some balls. And, I thought Brett threw some really good balls in there that probably should have been caught, and that doesn't help you as a quarterback, and those guys can go up and make some of those plays, and, then you get that momentum and you're trying to move the ball and you get into a rhythm, and when it doesn't happen, it becomes a little bit frustrating. But he handled that really well. That's the one thing, and I think the negative part was just taking care of the ball, in those situations. Other than that, we had the one high ball that, Thomas missed, that he had a chance to go up and get. It was high there, that went through his hands, and, it was probably one of the more poor throws that he had in the game. Other than that, he tried to compete on him, and it just didn't happen. Yep.